Hi, my name is Leah, and I'll be answering for the Module 1 Timeline and Introductory Activity. Which reading is your primary source in selecting this new entry? The reading that is my primary source is the Restructuring in Historical Perspectives. This article is very interesting in the fact that it was noticed later in assembling special education. It's crazy because no matter what, there's always going to be different opinions of how things should be established. Why is this event important to include in the timeline? This event is important to include in the timeline because it is always relevant in discussing inclusion and how things are viewed moving forward into the future. This would be important to include in the timeline of inclusion and when that was starting to become important and what that term meant. When looking at restructuring, there is never going to be a permanently straight answer or way to go. Someone will have a different opinion of how things should go, and there will be conflicts with interests in the structure of the school. But with that, everyone needs to be included and have that is the basis for restructuring, for us to have that state of utopia. So inclusion is key, and that should be important to put in the timeline. That article, that reading, to be included with restructuring and what that means, and how inclusion is very much important to having that utopia. How did this event impact special education? This event impacted special education to find ways to create utopia in a world where everyone had the same ideas and knowledge of how special education can change and grow. For the last century, Americans have been getting towards utopia in schools. They have set high expectations to establish a better learning environment for all students to succeed in the future. If I could go back in time, would you want to know about this event/person? If I could go back in time, I would want to know why they keep coming up with new terminology to describe the same context of utopia and what restructuring means. Because like what they use excellence in 1980s or the equality in the 1960s, and I guess it's new terminology, so people will have a different opinion or different idea, but it's kind of like the same. So I really think it's just, the use of equality, what they used back in 1960s. What questions would you try to answer? So the questions I try to answer is, how can we establish a better trend in institutional development when waves of trendy talk take importance in how people view things? So in this day and age, we can use social media to put forth correct information to a variety of people to support inclusion and how to create a version of utopia in the schools. But back then, in the 1990s, it was harder to connect with a variety of people through because there was no social media to use. So it's much easier now, but back then it wasn't. So I would have to use the resources that are available to me, and like with the newspapers, articles, connect to people that won't be able to have a straightforward thinking idea of how things should go. But we shouldn't dismiss the idea of how things should go. But we shouldn't dismiss the idea of inclusion and work towards that. Inclusion, again, is key. No matter what our feelings and different ideas are, we all need to be included to create a better learning environment for the future. Thank you.